Ladies and gentlemen, the next session is a keynote presentation on regulations and collaborations across governments and industry in the context of maritime sector. May we now invite Ms. Sandra Sarav, Deputy Secretary General for Economy and Innovation and Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications of Estonia on stage for the keynote presentation. Ms. Sandra, please.
Thank you very much. By the way, you're doing a terrific job. I've been an MC myself. I know it's the most difficult job in the room, so congratulations. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Estonia. My name is Sandra Sarav. I'm the Deputy Minister for Economy and Innovation from the Ministry of Economic Affairs of Estonia. So now you've been sitting for a while. Here's the first task. Those of you who come from Singapore, please stand up. Stretch your legs. If you come from Singapore, please stand up in the room. Okay, almost half of the audience. Those of you who come from Estonia, can you now please stand up? And now those of you who have been to Estonia, outside of the Estonians, please stand up. Okay. Excellent, still a few people. So after this presentation, everyone will need to stand up because even if you haven't been to Estonia physically, you will see what Estonia is like from the next slides I will be presenting you. So thank you again for inviting me to speak at this conference. I'm very honored coming from Estonia. I believe that the two countries of Estonia and Singapore face very similar challenges, which are something I'm going to be discussing in my presentation today. So those of you who have been to Estonia know it's almost on the other side of the planet. However, Singapore and Estonia are quite similar. We're similar in the way that we are both surrounded by the sea. We are unsimilar by the way that Estonia's second biggest island, which has altogether 8,000 inhabitants, is as big as Singapore, which has 8,000 inhabitants per 1 square kilometer. So if you need some space, you should come to Estonia. But don't hug people, they don't like it. So today we're going to talk about the challenges in the maritime industry and how we can decarbonize and digitalize in order to be more efficient. Because this is what I believe in. We shouldn't digitalize for the sake of digitalization. It doesn't make sense. But small nations such as Singapore and Estonia need to digitalize in order to be more efficient. In the maritime sector, digitalization means that we need more critical resources that we both lack in our countries, such as the workforce. We are both struggling to find new people to work in our sectors or to find new people to bring more efficiency. So digital in itself is not the end goal. We do digitalization in order actually to be more efficient. Some of the examples I would like to bring from you from Estonia when it comes to digitalization are related to the maritime industry. For instance, we have a project called the merehunt, or the sea wolf, to have a direct translation. So sea wolves, or merehundid, are like platforms, like Aladdin's carpets, which are flying, but they are floating on the sea. So they gather the information from the sea regarding the situational awareness, regarding the emissions, regarding how the situation on the sea is ongoing, and they create digital twins. Digital twins are some of the topics that have been discussed earlier on this stage, including by the Microsoft's Global Public Policy CTO, who said that in Formula One, digital twins are more important than the actual cars itself. So when we talk about collecting data from the sea, actually also proving those digital twins who help with better decision making, who help with issues such as when to send the ship to maintenance, or who help collect data about the environment more efficiently without sending actual ships to the sea, help us make more efficient, help us to innovate more, and therefore use our resources in a better way that is not only better in terms of people management, but also better for our environment, because this is what we need to be aware of. So those platforms collect data, and there was a question from the QR, previously from the audience asking whether we should collect data at all times, even if we don't know how to use this. And this is the key. I don't like data being called the new oil because it doesn't make sense. Oil is not a renewable resource. We should consider data to be a renewable resource because the only way we can monetize data and use data better is if we reuse and reshare the data, which was also some of the topics that were discussed in an earlier panel. So another project related to the sea hunt or the merehund, the sea wolf that we have in Estonia, are some of the projects that we are developing in a consortium, for instance, in Spain. So some of the things that are very innovative and can happen on the sea as well, or even under the sea, relate to drug trafficking. So Estonia, together with some other companies in the world, are bringing underwater drones to combat illicit drugs or illicit goods from coming to Europe. So you can see you can use different types of technologies, even such as drones, but underwater drones, which bring more innovation to the sea. This is one of my favorite quotes coming from one of the companies of Estonia, which says, "Never send a man or a woman to do a machine's job." So we spoke about automatization in the previous panel. What we believe in is, again, automatization brings efficiency, and we shouldn't automate for the sake of automatization itself. So one of the companies in Estonia called Mindship, they are building so-called AI vessels or AI captains, which means that we can let the ships on the water without having physical staff on board, which again brings efficiency that is much needed in countries such as Singapore and Estonia, where we don't have too many resources to begin with. So if you can imagine ships that clean oil spills without any staff whatsoever, ships that monitor port infrastructures without any staff whatsoever, or even ships that actually act as border guards. This is exactly what Mindship brings you. So these are the types of things that we actually develop in Estonia in order to be more efficient. And of course, this inspiration does not come only of things that we can do on the sea. So long time already in Estonia, we have, for instance, parcel delivery robots on the streets delivering us food or delivering your packages. So we bring the same type of innovation that we have on the sea to actually, on the land, we bring also to the sea. Because we should copy-paste from solutions that actually work somewhere and make them happen elsewhere. Now, both of our nations, both Singapore and Estonia, need to be smart, because being smart gives you a smart way of life. And again, going back to resources or just going to be competitive, for small nations such as ourselves, we need to do things differently. So perhaps bigger nations can be a bit more lazy, but we cannot afford to be lazy because we need to find additional resources that we lack. So here in Singapore, for instance, you have one of the most busiest ports in the world. The things you do with automatization in the Singapore port are not done out of necessity, but rather in order to innovate and to show the world what can be done. Singapore is a very tiny nation, and I love to say it because normally Estonia is called to be the tiny country in the world, but being in Singapore, I actually feel big. But you are showing the world the leadership on how to do things in a better way. So this is another comparison between Estonia and Singapore. We need to strive always to be better, to be smarter. And as was said by the minister in the initial speech, not better, but the best. So another example that I can bring you from Estonia is the Estonian and Finnish Green Corridor initiative between Estonia and Finland. We only have a sea distance of 80 kilometers between our countries, so we make the most use of it in order to become more effective. So, for instance, between Tallinn and Helsinki, we have LNG-fueled vessels, we have automated docking systems, we have shore power stations, and they help create a seamless, environmentally friendly transport link. Singapore has a lot of neighbors, so we're happy to share our initiatives and examples on how things can actually be done. So such innovations, the use of smart technology, can really redefine the maritime landscape to make it more sustainable. Because again, we don't digitalize for the sake of digitalizing. We don't want to be sustainable for the sake of being sustainable. But for us, whose ways of lives are connected with the sea, we need to ensure that this is preserved for our nations to come. When we look at digitalization, however, there's one thing that cannot be overlooked, and this is cybersecurity. So Estonia was the first country against whom there was launched a nationwide cyber attack back in the year of 2007. There were no major data leaks. However, most of the government websites were down, the banking websites were down, the newspapers' websites were down. So they were a series of distributed denial of service attacks. So ever since 2007, Estonia has been listened to, and we continue to apply the principle of cybersecurity not only to digital services such as government services, but when we move on to digitalizing the maritime sector, to being more autonomous, we also need to look at the aspect of cybersecurity. Estonia is a firm believer of public and private partnership. So again, when we look at how to apply cybersecurity into maritime industry when we're digitalizing, we look at some of the companies from Estonia, such as Cybernetica, who help to make sure that actually there is cybersecurity applied on the sea as well as on the land. Looking forward, we need to decarbonize in order to save our way of life. I don't know if you knew, but Estonia has one of the cleanest airs in the world. So Tallinn city, which is the capital city of Estonia, has the 5th cleanest city air in the world. There was a case when there was an Asian exchange student, I'm not going to tell you which country he was from, and he was interviewed in Estonia asking, "How is your life here?" And he said, "Life is very difficult because the air is so clear that my mind is always clean and I have to think about my worries. Back home, the air is not so clear, so I'm always passed out." So in Estonia, we need to preserve this nice nature, this nice way of life, this clean air, just as you have to do in Singapore or as we have to do in any country in the world, because the air knows no borders. It doesn't matter from which country you come from. We need to strive the same goals in order to be more sustainable and energy efficient. So we're looking in Estonia, what can we do beyond carbon capturing, for instance, what we can do to save the emissions. So one of the things we're building in Estonia is the Marine Green Tech and Retrofit Hub. We're looking at retrofitting almost 70,000 ships in Estonia because while our national fleet is very small, and we are only looking to decarbonize 2 of the vessels in the national fleet of Estonia by making them more electric or running on LNG fuels, then actually we see Estonia as a hub to offer different kind of solutions to other ships coming from around the world. So soon you will be hearing more about the retrofit hub of Estonia. And those of you who haven't been here yet, you are always welcome and try what we offer here. In addition, we have companies from Estonia who offer similar kinds of solutions to decarbonize, such as Shorelink, who helps vessels when they are docked to charge with electricity instead of emitting fuels or fumes that are harmful to our nature. So we always find the solutions together with the private sector in Estonia. So one of the things I wanted to end up with was that both Estonia and Singapore really enjoy the way of life of being next to the sea. So this picture is taken from this island, which is the 2nd biggest island of Estonia, which is as big as Singapore, but not so densely populated, of course. So for us, being digitalized, being decarbonized, doesn't mean that we do this in order to gain attention. We do this in order to preserve the future for our kids and for the next generations to come. Because without focusing on decarbonization, without focusing on digitalization, the maritime industry could be what it was 1,260 years ago when Estonia started first building ships. But we want to bring future into every industry we can. So this is why you need to listen to countries such as Singapore and Estonia who show how to lead the digital way of life. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope to see you around in the tea room and look for Estonian companies who can help you sell solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sandra. May I invite you to return to your seat, please.